Welcome to Gesara for Dummies. It is the 12th of April 2025. Let's look at today's news from Professor William Liebenberg, prepared by Martin Stein. Please like, share and subscribe. Join our Telegram group in the comments below. Thank you. Let's go. Iraq and Dinar RV. Iraq, a new frontier for digital connectivity and global data flow. Around 17% of the world's global internet traffic passes through submarine cables running through the Suez Canal, making it an indispensable but increasingly strained conduit. The Suez Canal is one of the most concentrated centers for subsea cable infrastructure in the world. If the Suez Canal cables go, then the world needs an immediate alternative, and that is explained in Project Odin. Investment licenses in Iraq, as governed by the National Investment Law, amended in 2015, are designed to attract foreign and domestic investment. A stronger economy might increase demand for the Iraqi dinar, IQD, potentially raising its value if other conditions align. However, the direct impact of investment licenses on currency value is limited and indirect at best. The Iraqi dinar's exchange rate is fixed by the Central Bank of Iraq, not determined by market forces like a floating currency. For example, it was devalued from 1,190 Iraqi dinars to 1,450 Iraqi dinars per USD in December 2020 due to a liquidity crisis, and later adjusted to 1,300 Iraqi dinars in 2023 to stabilize prices. These decisions reflect policy responses to economic pressures, like oil price fluctuations or fiscal needs, rather than immediate outcomes of investment activity. The dinar's fixed regime means any appreciation would require a deliberate Central Bank of Iraq revaluation, not an automatic market response to investment. The Gesara Law. Space Force, Stephen L. Quast, USAF General, we have tech today that can take you from anywhere on Earth to anywhere else in an hour. U.S. Embassy condemns kill the Boer chant despite Constitutional Court ruling. Russian RT News is working with the U.S. to highlight crimes of the government in South Africa. The alliance are exposing South Africa. Trump refuses to attend the South Africa G20 summit. How could we be expected to go to South Africa? Land confiscation and genocide are the primary topics. They are taking the land of white farmers and then killing them. Idaho's governor signed a law allowing execution by firing squad for pedophiles, expanding the death penalty beyond just aggravated murder. BRICS. Gesara Nations Alliance. The US and African nations will hold talks in June, July on the future of the African Growth and Opportunity Act, the trade pact granting duty-free access to the U.S. South Africa Trade Minister Parks Tau warns, it's going to be difficult to save the African Growth and Opportunity Act. Non-BRICS countries will have access to BRICS payment platforms, Lavrov says. In addition to national currencies, there is an opportunity to form payment platforms independent of external influence. One option is the Central Bank of Russia's financial messaging system. It is convenient and does not depend on any SWIFT. There are a number of other initiatives that are being considered, in particular, within the BRICS framework, the Russian foreign minister told reporters. Q Military Intelligence Delta Post 11/20 of April 10, 2018. Clarify. Chongqing. Tuesday. Demand. Xi. Confirm tariff reduction. Tuesday. China. Cars. The article provides a foundation. Major import. Ford. U.S. Start. 7 years later exactly, on April 10. China says it's willing to resolve differences with the U.S. through consultation and negotiation. Banks and the economy. What is the current status of our global currencies? As for the current status, it's a mixed bag. The US dollar has been flexing lately, partly because of baseline tariffs, like the 10% on most imports, signaling a protectionist stance, which can draw capital flows inward. Other currencies, like China's yuan, are under strain from targeted tariffs, 125% on Chinese goods, while smaller economies tied to global trade like Southeast Asia are seeing volatility. Valuation policies haven't shifted dramatically in the past week, but central banks are watching trade disruptions closely, as they could fuel inflation or choke growth, forcing rate tweaks. Inflation and growth rates can indeed influence exchange rates, as they affect a country's economic health and investor confidence. Higher inflation often weakens a currency by reducing its purchasing power, while lower inflation can strengthen it. Similarly, strong economic growth attracts foreign investment, increasing demand for a currency and potentially appreciating its value, whereas weak growth can depress it. South Africa is in deep trouble due to the government's sheer incompetence. Central banks may adjust interest rates in response to these factors, further impacting exchange rates. Higher rates typically attract capital inflows, strengthening the currency, while lower rates can weaken it. Inflation and growth rates are shaping exchange rates in 2025. It's all about inflows and outflow trading. Watch the water. The cabal's fiat system is being exposed and is coming to an end. Fed Chair Jerome Powell explains how he flooded the system by printing money, causing the inflation we see today. CBS Pelly asks, fair to say you flooded the system with money? Powell answers, yes, we did. CBS Pelly asks, where does it come from? Do you just print it? Powell's answer, we print it. European Union seeks to ditch American Visa and MasterCard. European Central Bank President Lagarde has stated that it's time to move away from systems like Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, and Alipay, calling for greater European control over financial infrastructure. A sensible idea, but somewhat ironic, given the current state of EU and US tensions. The White House says President Trump will not accept a situation where Wall Street is allowed to run the economy. Payment systems. Ripple versus SEC nears endgame. Settlement awaits final approval. Key insights. Ripple and SEC agreed to pause appeals and await final settlement approval from SEC commissioners. The proposed deal would resolve all charges against Ripple's top executives. Legal experts say an injunction review by Judge Torres could influence the outcome of the settlement. The settlement is awaiting commission approval. No brief will be filed on April 16. That April 16 deadline had been scheduled for Ripple's brief reply in the appeal. The motion now halts that process, with both parties seeking additional time to finalize the terms. The settlement will only become official once approved by the full SEC Commission. Pro-crypto attorney Bill Morgan pointed out that the motion marks the first public confirmation by the SEC of a settlement. At least we now have a public acknowledgement by the SEC. Morgan wrote. He added that attention will now turn to whether Judge Torres will revisit the injunction order. The financial switch is underway. ISO 20022 is live, and blockchain is quietly taking over. There was no press conference, no vote, No media countdown. But the switch is happening right now, and the public isn't being told. The banks aren't upgrading, they're switching. ISO 20022 is live. Blockchain is active, and the financial system is being rebuilt without your consent. JP Morgan and Wells Fargo aren't testing. They're executing. The global financial reset has started, and no one is warning the public. Behind the scenes, some of the most powerful players in global finance are realigning their infrastructure for a new system. Ripple is already embedded in the framework. JP Morgan is developing its own digital rails. Citi and Wells Fargo are testing tokenized transactions and programmable settlement systems. And all of them, without exception, are now fully compliant with ISO 20022, the new global messaging standard for financial institutions. Commodities. Gold reaches a new all-time high of $3,220. Gold standard. Economics. Gold and silver. April 10th. I believe the Mar-a-Lago Accords surface soon. Tied to gold. The Mar-a-Lago Accords are coming, and they could change everything. We're on the verge of a massive global monetary reset, and this time, it's all about gold and silver. Will the US return to a gold-backed dollar? Could gold skyrocket to $12,000 per ounce? And is silver the most undervalued asset in the world right now? Treasury yields have gone vertical. Right now, gold is following. This is not a drill. The US has a historic opportunity to help restore monetary integrity. Where to start? By issuing a gold-backed treasury instrument. The clock is ticking. President Trump says the US dollar value will go way up, stronger than ever. Translation: the US dollar will be backed by gold. Currency wars. There you have it, folks. All over mainstream media. Ending currency manipulation. Currencies are currently in a state of flux. A lot of currency adjustments take place. New trade balances will create new exchange rates. Other factors such as lowering inflation and growth will be adjusted. This is what we're looking for during this time. Breaking. The US debt clock just crossed the line. Are we witnessing a global monetary reset? Income tax gone. Corporate tax gone. This isn't a glitch. It's a signal. The system's collapsing by design, and Trump's return just flipped the script. Commerce. Secretary Howard Lutnick confirms, U.S. tariffs are not being postponed. The president needs to reset global trade. This isn't about temporary pressure. It's a full system reset, and it's moving fast. De-dollarization in overdrive. 10-year bond crashing in multiple currencies. The world is dumping US debt while the gold price spikes. A return of real assets. The fiat system is crumbling because it was never meant to last. It was built on lies, on theft, on the engineered enslavement of entire populations under a global fiat currency. Dictatorship run by central banking cartels and unelected globalist parasites. And now, that system is being dismantled. Brick by brick, dollar by dollar, by the only man brave enough to do it, Donald J. Trump. Exit fiat, enter assets. That sums up your Saturday news. See you tomorrow.